Great. Welcome. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Business Economic Development Committee. It is 5:46. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. We have committee members, Fish, Councilor Hawes. I'm sorry, I didn't say Councilor Fish. Councilor Hawes, Councilor Leonard, Councilor Mallard, myself, Committee Chair Fournier. We are joined around the table with Councilors Beck, Dean, and Tremble. Also at the table is our Director of Economic Development, Creed. First up on the agenda is a fence with a painting.
Yes, councilors may recall, when you did your last amendment last year, or your second amendment, I forget how many amendments it has been, with the waterfront concerts, lease amendment, there was a requirement that, the, lessees from waterfront concerts would work with, whether Bangor Beautiful or an artist to do some type of mural along Main Street. So they've been able to work with Bangor Beautiful. They're here today to kind of go over what what their plans are for that mural.
Hi, everyone. My name is Greg Edwards. I live at 91 Pearl Street. I'm the co-founder of Bangor Beautiful. You've probably seen in your packets the memo and hopefully with the renderings. We've been working with Waterfront Concerts to tackle this giant fence. It's over 700 feet long. It's a monumental task that we have decided to break up into different sections, the largest of which will be a 70-foot mural by Jared Goulet, who did the Springwoods mural on Hammond Street featuring the Fiddleheads and the Spring Frog last year. So he will be doing a large section closer to the main facility that will say, it'll be in a sort of vintage postcard style, a lot like Welcome to Bangor, the Greetings from Bangor postcard, that will say, we hope you have a good time and hope you have a wicked good time. And wicked good time is the big blown up letters with images inset into the text. For the rest of the fence, we're working with 20 local artists this year who have been given 4x4 marine plywood canvases that will be, they've taken them home. We've given them paint and a stipend to create something on the theme of Maine. There's two examples that we were able to include in the packet that we've gotten back early from two local artists, Peter Walls and Sarah Terrell. And yeah, so those two are really exciting to see, and those are just the first two, so there will be 18 more of those. It's such a big fence. We're doing 20 this year, but there is the possibility of adding another 30 next year or in future years. Those will be set on a stained background of varying color blocks to add a little more excitement, tie it all together, tie it to the bigger mural at the head of the street. And yeah, so everything was going well. We're hoping to install 1st of June if we get approval.
Great. So Bangor Beautiful is recommending this, then it went to the Cultural Commission?
Yep, Cultural Commission has made a unanimous recommendation to the council. So this does need council approval because it was part of that lease.
Right.
So.
We had questions? Councilor?
Oh, I was gonna do it. You said a question.
Questions?
I was gonna do a motion.
Question?
I just had a question about the color scheme of the color blocks. Does that mean something to Bangor?
Not in particular. We were going for sort of a carnival theme because it's in sort of the entertainment district of Bangor. So picturing like a old style carnival tent with fun colors, but also something that we could find in wood stain that would hold up well and blend into as opposed to painting the fence, which would be a little more time intensive and not necessarily hold up as well.
Any other questions? Greg, I see there's paint on your hands. You haven't been out there.
We're painting the Sandusky Extreme Pump Station mural
Oh.
actively as of like, Annette was still out there 30 minutes ago, so
Great.
I came
Nice.
straight here after washing my face.
Great, good. That's great. You happy to accept the motion?
I would move that this go to, full council.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments on that? Good to go, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg. Proposed new use for airport development.
Yes, Anya Colette is here, our planning officer, to review that. Just to give a little bit of background, we've been working with the fire department for their building out at the airport, and we realized that the zoning for the airport district doesn't allow for some government uses.
Yeah, and pretty much summed up most of it, but we don't have a general public safety use or government use in airport development district, even though we have things like daycares and schools and transportation called out. So to facilitate this, we're just proposing that we do create a new public safety use for the zone.
And maybe a point of clarification, where is this exactly located?
It's right across from the where Life Flight is.
Up on the hill?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and there's actually an existing fire building there now, so that they do training in. So this will be the location for the new training facility.
Great. Questions, comments?
So
Councilor
if
Hawes?
you, come up with this new district, it's just for that area out there?
For the airport district.
I'm surprised we've not had a public safety before now. It's just strange.
Just to clarify, it wouldn't be a new zone, it would just be adding this use into the existing
Right.
zone.
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do it.
No, just have to go to planning board?
Yeah, it has to go through the
Yeah.
process.
All right, good. As long as it's going through planning board,
Yeah.
good. So do you want a recommendation that it go to planning board? Is that what this is about?
No, we just take any changes to the land development code before it goes into the formal process. We like to take it to you informally to get your feedback before we start that process.
All right. Are you happy to get a motion? So moved. Thank you.
Second,
For a second, give me a second.
sure.
Any questions? Seeing none, that will move forward.
Thank you.
Great. Next up, make sure I have my fee change.
So this is to follow up on when I had come previously to talk about potentially changing our fees for land development projects. Primarily decreasing them, but for some potentially increasing a little bit to better reflect the staff time that we spend on these and also the advertising costs that we have to pay. And I did just provide some information about looking back through the past couple of years on average, you know, how many of each type of these applications we get, and then on average, the fees that we would typically get from them, and then comparing that to the new ones. So just overall looking at that, to start with, we typically budget $40,000 a year for fee revenue. And on average, we get at least $10,000 to $12,000 over that, if not more, depending on if we get a really big project one year. But with the new fees, we would be looking at a decrease of approximately $10,000 to $12,000. So that is the budget impact. But we would be more accurately reflecting what time we're spending on it. And the other question that was asked was what other towns charge. So we just looked at some of the larger towns around us, like Orono, Brewer, and Hamden. They all charge a base fee, and then they typically charge an extra escrow fee or deposit fee to pay for any additional technical review that's needed. And then Orono also has an extra fee for consultants. So I think if you combined those extra technical review fees with the base, it would be pretty comparable to what we're charging. And sometimes more, sometimes less, but it really varies. They don't, I don't believe they have the number of technical staff that Bangor has. So our fees pretty much encompass, all the technical review that is needed. We never have to hire that out, so. So that pretty much sums it up.
So in the case of Orno, when they hire a consultant, that's the expertise that they're bringing in?
I believe so. They didn't really draw that out on their website, so,
I'm just making an assumption. Yeah,
Yeah, typically the applicant pays for that,
yeah.
yeah.
right,
Right.
exactly. Questions? Comments? Councilor Miller?
I'm just curious, we checked with the surrounding towns, but what about major cities that have, we're the third largest, what about the second largest, what do they do? How's their fee schedule?
I had not looked at them. Since the question at the time was surrounding towns,
The surrounding towns are much smaller than we are, so
Yeah.
I'm just curious, they don't have the staff on hand, the other places do, so I'd be curious what they're.
I'm guessing there'd probably be more because those towns have more staff, I believe, than we do to review land development. So I'm guessing that their fees would be more, but
Well, the correlation would be if they have more staff and they're charging higher fees. We have more staff and we're charging reduced fees. That doesn't look very good to the taxpayer.
well, again, we do need to make sure that our fees reflect what's actually being spent to review them, because the point of the fees is to pay for our review and pay for the advertising needed for a project. So,
And also in keeping with the council's directive that this is the year of building, at a staff level, we're looking at all of the different areas and all the divisions of, how could we meet that goal for you? And looking at our fee structure was one of the things that we wanted to take a look at.
I appreciate that, but we also have to look at the tax rate. And we haven't gone through the budget yet, it hasn't been a vastly, if it's gonna increase or decrease, but I think to reduce fees at this point in time is a little premature. I'd rather wait until after the budgeting is done. Because if you're gonna be budgeting less, is that correct? In the current budget, you're budgeting less revenue, or what did you budget in the current budget?
We kept it as typical from last year, I think.
40,000.
Yeah, 40,000.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
that wouldn't reflect what you want now, though, would it?
because that was done before we got to this point in time. so-
Right.
Right,
So
And-
then we
and
have
also
to
we-
adjust the budget, is what
And
you're
also
saying?
typically we take in a lot more in revenue than 40,000 in a given last few
Typical
years.
is a difficult word. We might take in less this time. I just
Yeah.
think I wanna wait till, I don't think we should do this until after the budget's done.
other comments? Councilor Beck?
Just a question I have is, one of the things that they talked about the National League of Cities is fees is an obstacle. Do you see, the potential here by lowering our fees to spur any additional development from this? Or are these amounts kind of too small to spur that kind of a?
Not necessarily spur, but again, it's just taking some of those barriers away, to reduce the cost of construction for people. Because there are things that we can't control. We hear a lot about the cost of construction, and that's not something necessarily we can control. So we have to look at what we can control, and fees is one of those things.
And then those fees do get, baked into that end sale or rental price, which does influence the housing cost. But I do see somewhat of an impact on smaller developers. They might already struggle to pay for a site plan if they need one. And then when you add the fees on top of it, it might make it not feasible for them. That's where I see the biggest impact.
Councilor Fish?
Being involved with real estate for a long time, we're working with a lot of developers in subdivisions and even smaller ones that like to renovate or take a vacant lot or get permits. I often hear that the fee structure in Bangor is very high. And I think that this is a good gesture to try to make it look like we're being more cooperative, being more mindful and trying to encourage more development here. And if it's reflective more of the real time and expense of the city, I think it's fair to reduce them and relative to what it's cost for time and expense to the city.
Councilor Dean.
I had a question regarding, usually budget 40,000, usually 10,000 over. What was the actual revenue from last fiscal year? Were you
Last
over
fiscal
the
year?
40s?
I don't remember specifically, but I think it might have been roughly $50,000 to $60,000.
So if you're budgeting the 40, you're feeling pretty safe even with these reductions that would be covered.
Yeah, I mean, and it all depends on what kind of projects we get, but I feel like we would probably get more than, I've estimated $28,000 here. I feel like we'd probably get more than that, but I can't say for sure. So.
Other questions, comments? My 2 cents, I'm not really too hung up on the bigger cities in the state of Maine, what they're charging, because our competition is the local competition. It's gonna be the local municipalities. And if we're getting ourselves in line with what they're doing, I think that would be to our benefit. A $10,000 difference as far as what we budgeted and what we think we'll get by the reduction, I don't think is material. So with that, I'd be happy to take a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? That will move forward. Great. Next up, proposed testimony, LD 949.
Yep, so this would be testimony after the fact, since the hearing was some time ago. And we have submitted that, but we just wanted to bring to your attention that the state has this bill out, which would essentially limit the fees or really eliminate the fees that we could charge for manufactured home parks. That any manufactured home installation that meets the rules of HUD or the Manufactured Housing Board, which means we couldn't charge for site plan fees or, sewer connection or plumbing or anything like that. So the testimony was in opposition to that bill, so we can cover our time that we spend on those. Any questions?
Questions? Nobody objects, I think we'll move forward with that. LD 1396.
And this one is regarding the state's bill on changing subdivision standards to increase the number of dwelling units that would trigger subdivision. So currently, when you place 3 or more units on a lot, or you create 3 or more lots, you trigger subdivision, which can be a pretty large barrier for somebody that's only wanting to do 3 or 4 units, which doesn't typically have that big of an impact. So this testimony does support the bill, but it does also point out some inconsistencies in it, where they had, increased this threshold for when you're placing new structures on a lot or you're creating new lots. But then if you're dividing a building into units, it doesn't increase that threshold. So we are just pointing those out, and also expressing support for the stakeholder group that there's another bill out there to create a stakeholder group to look at the subdivision law. So that's the gist of it.
Great. Questions? Comments? Councilor Chuck.
If you subdivide a lot now, you fall under that threshold, how long do you have to wait before you can subdivide again?
5 years.
5 years.
You have plans?
I'm just curious.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move forward on that as well.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
And it's not on your agenda, but just recently came up. LD 1498, they had a hearing on that yesterday, but we're proposing to submit testimony on that. And that's regarding limiting the municipality's ability to get impact fees for development. And the specific items of concern are that it limits us to spending impact fees on the development site itself or adjacent properties. And also, we would have to expend impact fees within hundred and 80 days. So the entire nature of impact fees is that it typically goes towards very large infrastructure projects, which often are not adjacent to a development. And also would be impossible to expend in hundred and 80 days. So we are proposing to submit testimony in opposition to that. And again, same with subdivision, there's another bill that would create a work group to look at impact fee regulations as a whole, which we think is a better idea. So.
Comments? I always support that.
Okay.
Good.
And then the final thing for me is just giving you an update on Jane's Walk. We did that last year, if some of you remember. Work with the Bangor Historical Society to do a walk around. We're doing the waterfront this year. Last year it was an area around downtown, but basically to talk about the history of the waterfront area. We might walk a little bit down the road to Shaw's in that area and just talking about the history. And then our planning staff will be there also to talk about, the planning principles that have gone into that area over time, design guidelines. But the whole purpose of Jane's Walk is to celebrate and really look at what Jane Jacobs had advocated for back in 1960. She really advocated for good urban design and creating communities and neighborhoods by, changing neighborhoods to be less car-centric and focused on separation of land uses, is more focused on bringing the community together. So we're going to implement or incorporate that into the talk. So that'll be at 10 a.m. on May 3rd, and it'll start at the Harbor Master's office, and we will have a social post out soon on that. Also, Downtown Bangor Partnership is doing another walk later that day at 2 p.m. That will focus more on the public art downtown. So it'll be pretty neat to have 2 different walks.
Great. Questions, comments? Councilor Beck?
Just a question, how do you guys pick the area each year? 'Cause I did go to one and it was great. But how do you decide what part of the city to do each time?
Well, this year it was with with Matt over.
Yeah, Bangor Historical Society has chosen the location last 2 years, and we get feedback and put together on
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
The first year we did it, we wanted to focus mostly on the areas of urban renewal in Bangor, because that was really what precipitated her work, was, that changing, that radical changing of the urban landscape that really kind of set her into, her movement.
I think it's great that we're doing the waterfront in that stretch there.
Yeah.
And in the afternoon with the walk, I think it's looking at the murals at the various buildings, get the old discussion there. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Super. All right, thank you. Last on the agenda,
Yes.
business retention and attraction work updates.
Yes, Brad Wallace here from our Economic Development Division to talk about the work that he's been doing in business retention and attraction.
Yes. So, I'm Brad Wall. I'm the Business Development Specialist for the city, and I'm in the Economic Development Division, as Ann said. So, just wanted to give a short update about our business retention and expansion efforts. First off, one critical component for business retention is companies feeling safe and able to talk with the city, but also to connect them with the resources that they need. I have found in meeting with a lot of businesses in Bangor, especially small businesses, that they are not aware of a lot of the resources that the city of Bangor and the state of Maine offers. And a lot of these resources are free. And sometimes these resources are the difference between a business being able to proceed and succeed, and the difference between faltering and not being able to move forward. So since January 1st, I have met with 28 different businesses. The great majority of them reached out to us. And most of these meetings, the majority are with smaller businesses, but I've also met with medium and also large businesses as well, developers as also. But the majority of the meetings are in person, and I either go to them or they will come here, and I schedule a conference room. And every meeting is unique, so they don't all need the same thing. And so I'll sit down and talk with them. I'll tell them what I do. My job is to make it easier for businesses to do business in Bangor and the surrounding region. And then they tell me about their business and what it is. Either some of them are thinking about starting a business, some of them are have just recently started and are encountering some challenges. And they tell me what it is they're looking for. And then I connect them with the resources that I am aware of that could be able to help them. So some of the different industries of the businesses who I've met with: construction trades, retail, manufacturing, food and restaurant, services, and consulting businesses. Why did they want to meet with the city? Many of them were interested in funding sources, potential grants that might be available, general recommendations on how to start their business. Questions in general about licensing and permits. We do have folks who are looking for city-owned properties, and a lot of the smaller businesses that I've met with are retail and very interested in downtown, locations in downtown Bangor. And so in almost all cases, a resource was requested or a problem was presented where a resource was available. And so I shared that with them. I also generally try to follow up with an email. I shoot them an email with the links to the resources that we discussed, so they have it all in one nice package when we're all finished. We also have some brochures that we talked about before. I know since the last time I've been in a meeting, we have new counselors. So there is a business resource guide, a small, simple guide that I've made that a lot of folks are interested in as well. So the takeaway that I am seeing quite often at the end of the meetings, the folks will say, I'm really glad that I decided to come to the city and visit with you before I started this process. Now I'm aware, for example, of the Maine Funding Network. I didn't realize that was even available. This is brand new, that was created by the Governor's Office and the Finance Authority of Maine last year. So it's not even 1 year old yet. And it provides alternate funding and gap financing for small businesses. But the big takeaway is these folks are grateful that they can come and speak with a human being and not have to just rely on doing a Google search or an AI search, and being able to get some answers and get some resources that would be able to help them.
Questions? Councilor Fish.
For the new inquiries that people have been, new potential businesses coming in, what is the reason that they would specifically be interested or inquire about city-owned properties versus other commercial properties that might be already out there? Is there a specific reason?
Some folks, so the majority of folks are interested in leasing, but every now and again, we have a company who wants to specifically to build new. And so they have heard that the city has property that's available. And so they want to know more. They want to know more about it.
One more question, if I may. With the existing businesses that are here for retention, when they contact you, are they looking to expand? Or are they contacting you to express issues or problems? So for the existing business, what's the typical, or if you could kind of say some, certain percentage are expressing issues or a certain percentage are looking to expand?
That's a great question. There's a variety of reasons. Again, every company is unique. So just thinking off the top of my head in businesses that I've met with recently, one of them is looking to expand. Specifically, she subleases in an area in downtown. And, the rent went up. And so the person who is leasing is leaving and moving to a new space. And so she will need to get into a new space, and she can handle being able to afford a bigger space, but it was unexpected and sudden, so she didn't have much time to figure out where to go. Some folks have concerns, and they want to know, you know, what's available. Some folks are having financial difficulties. And I'm finding more and more, so in economic development, we really have worked hard on connecting with resource partners in the area, higher education in the area, UMaine, Husson, Eastern Maine Community College. And I'm starting, I like to ask these folks when they come in, why did you reach out to us? How did you hear about us to reach out to? And we're seeing more and more that we have resource partners who are referring them to come to us. And so they may meet with SBDC, and SBDC says, oh, there's economic development at the city who is a great starting point if you're interested in meeting with them. And so we're starting to see some of the fruits of that networking that has been going on over the last year with nonprofits and partners in the region.
Thank you.
Councilor Mallard.
I'm curious, what percentage would you say are you dealing with new business as opposed to established business? Like, for instance, do you visit the, I don't even remember what the name of it was, but the grocery store that had the fire? Have you been approached them with?
The Salty Brick Market.
Right.
Yeah, we actually have had a visit at
Recently?
at his, not at the facility that had the fire, but at another facility that he owns in downtown.
Okay, I guess my concern is who are you approaching as opposed to waiting for people to approach you?
Good question. So a lot of the folks reach out to us because they're getting ready to get started and they've heard that we can help. As far as like with the Salty Brick, we were able to connect with them through their downtown Bangor partnership. When we know through the Chamber of Commerce about a ribbon cutting, we can't attend all of them, but we try to attend ribbon cuttings to let them know that the city is here and available.
Oh, be specific. What did we offer the Salty Brick as far as the problems they've had with vagrants or homeless people? Did we do anything to assist them?
That's a very complicated question. I think as far as the homeless situation, I think that falls into partially into economic development, but it's much larger than that.
And working with, I mean, we meet all the time with the Downtown Bangor Partnership and you know, our public, as you know, our public health department does a lot of work with that, but in economic development, you know, that would not be part of their purview.
I will say at the end of that meeting, we had a good meeting with the owner of the Salty Brick. And we asked, what is your ask? What are you asking economic development to do? And his response was, I'd just like to have more meetings like this with people who can hear the challenges that I'm facing. And he was grateful that we met with him. We also connected him with our homelessness response manager, who he just wanted to sit down and have a visit with Jen.
I guess the concern I have is that we don't seem to be proactive with the people that are downtown now. We want to bring new business in, but if we can't take care of the business we have, it kind of defeats the purpose of bringing a lot of new businesses in. That's what I'm hearing from people. We have a downtown coordinator and we have your economic development specialist. I'd like to think when there's an issue, whether it's, and we see it in the newspaper or where we approach them, we don't wait for them to come to us. I think we need to be more proactive.
I would encourage counselors, if you do hear from people, to encourage them to contact us. So that we do know.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did contact you and you never approached the person I contacted you about. I won't
I'm not
say,
sure
we
who
won't
that is,
discuss
so,
it
okay.
now, but you didn't. That's why I asked if we're proactive or we're reactive, and it would appear to me we're reactive.
Any other questions? Counselor Beck?
For new businesses, it sounds like it behooves them to, if they're thinking about hanging out a shingle in Bangor, pick up the phone and give us a call. And find out, what Bangor can do for them and how we can be a good partner. So I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'd just like to say, I think it's really important that you're talking with SBDC and Penquist Cap and EMDC and I imagine you talked to the people at SCORE, SBA, the alphabet soup of all the partners out there. And when they can refer people to you for help, I think that says a lot. I think that's great. So it's building those connections and being able to move with that. Councilor Leonard.
Just one thought I had is, I stole some of those brochures, by the way, and handed them out to some new potential business operators. One of the things that came to mind is, as helpful as those are, I feel like we can do more with that information. I know some cities, what they'll do is that they'll do exactly that. They try to provide as much information as possible while not being overwhelming. It might behoove us to actually be reaching out to people through social media, and to even have, whether it's like stories on Instagram or videos on YouTube, just quick how-tos in order to help your startup business thrive in Bangor overall. That way, it kind of helps you reduce a lot of repeated conversations that you may or may not have with individuals or that are having problems. But we do have to meet citizens where they are at, and sometimes they're not even in the right mental state to take the ideas that we present to them and then apply them later. Sometimes we need to just provide them the information in the most feasible, easy way possible. And social media gives us the tools to do that quite effectively. So just food for thought. And I'm sure no one on council will have an issue with us creating like YouTube videos or like how-to tutorials.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. Anything else? Saying nothing. So I look forward to the central kitchen update next month.
time.
We'll go from there. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.